All right, Joe, thanks for taking the time to chat with me today. For people that don't know, I'm Charlie Merrill. I'm a physical therapist. I guess I call myself a mind-body physical therapist here in Boulder, Colorado. And Joe and I are going to chat today about the work that we do and also your recovery story. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Charlie. Always a pleasure. My name is Joe Molyneux, based in the UK. I'm an online occupational therapist, specializing in acceptance and commitment therapy. And my work is around helping people overcome health anxiety disorders. So, very brief introduction. See, I've been working with Charlie as well for a few months. He does amazing work. So I hope you enjoy this podcast.
Yeah, we're looking forward to chatting. And I think we connect because we both have this sort of athletic mindset. And even when we met, Joe, you were I don't know. I was thinking about this morning. You were already pretty far down this road, and so I'm really curious to hear, what you feel like shifted you the most when it comes to like getting back into your body and getting back in the gym based on our work together.
Yeah,
We know belief is such an important um, variable in this process, such an important ingredient, and I feel like you kind of had that from the beginning. It does kind of illustrate the importance of the brain and the mind, doesn't it? When belief is such an important.
absolutely.
But I'm just curious, how do you think you found that belief originally?
I think there was I'm going to say there was like a penny dropped after a few months. I've always been quite a determined chap. I would say I've always enjoyed exercise. I've been exercising now from being 16, but not just weightlifting, but a bit of everything. Played football all my life. So I've got good insight into my underlying issues and stuff and what's happened over the years. But I think number one for me was belief and the say determination, believing that there wasn't anything structurally wrong with me. I'd kind of stopped doing those safety behaviours. I think when I first started with my health anxiety, there was a lot of safety behaviours. I was constantly trying to fix myself or prove to myself that there's nothing wrong. I'd often go and run a 5K, and then I had the wrong sort of mindset around that. Like my mindset around exercise at that particular time was proving to myself that there was nothing wrong. Well, I was trying to understand what was actually happening to me here. I couldn't understand.
I
I couldn't
see,
make the emotional link.
but you weren't sure yet. And so was that like a process of elimination over time?
Yeah,
You sort of ruling out the structural stuff? Did it just
yeah,
like happen because you exhausted everything else, or was
yeah.
something that was like a definitive change where you were like, aha, or it was a click moment or something?
It was a bit of a process, to be honest. I think I'll try and make it pretty simple, although there was a lot of a process for me.
I'm sure it tends to be.
It, I'll try and so people can relate to what I went through. Mine all started with muscle twitching in the hand. Now, normally when I'm non-anxious, if I get twitching, I'll put it down to a bit of stress, or I've not moved enough today, or I haven't trained, or if I've trained, I haven't stretched out, or because we all get neural tension, it's part of life. But normally I'll just brush it off. So around about that time, which I know now that I didn't know back then, was I'd had all these built up emotions inside my body, which were being caused by mainly by family dynamics, but over a period of years. And I've always been a bit of a people pleaser. So when I started with these symptoms, and obviously the stress had just my stress jug had just overflowed and tipped over. So my cortisol levels were just off the chart. I couldn't do any of the work, and that resulted in me then seeking reassurance. So I went and paid for a private physiotherapist because at the time I was worried that I had a neurological condition, MS, motor neurons disease. I then did several visits to the GP surgery, and I actually went and paid for a private neurologist. all of whom said there's no red flags. The strength tests should be enough.
But these are serious symptoms. I just want to reiterate,
Yeah,
these symptoms are very real and they're scary, right? They're not just like benign symptoms that you can ignore.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think me working in healthcare for the last 10 years and seeing these conditions, you could be a carer that sees these conditions. It affects everybody differently. I thought that this is it. I've got this condition. It's going to be life limiting. I was planning things, I was planning ahead. So I didn't actually go through with any MRIs or neurological testing because, there wasn't a need to at the time. I had enough reassurance from medical professionals to say that there's nothing wrong. I had blood tests obviously as well. Now that got out of the way. Then the Google searching started.
Oh boy.
So, oh my God, yeah, that was then the next process. So I went from that to the Googling. So I Googled daily. I could be going out and having a lovely walk in nature with my partner. I'd have my phone in my pocket and I'd just be looking at muscle twitching and every condition you can think of, trying to find answers.
Trying to self-diagnose. Yeah.
Absolutely.
At this point, it's still just in your hands.
It was just, but it moved around. Then it became neuroplastic. It was everywhere. It became global.
I think it's really interesting. Do you think that you and I have never talked about this, but do you think because you're an OT for a living, do you think that's why your brain chose your hands as the first symptom?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Kind of brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. It picks up on there, and then I hyper focused on that. And as we well know, the brain, the more you fear a symptom, the more the brain is going to create more symptoms, and it's going to move around your body.
But it didn't pick your feet right away. It didn't pick
the feet.
Your knees, no. It didn't pick your back. It picked your hands.
No. Pick the hands. Yeah, and then obviously when you stop focusing on the hands, it moves somewhere else. Then it moved to the foot, the left foot. And I went on a holiday to Spain. I took a massage ball with me. Still couldn't understand that this was being caused by emotional stress and the brain was creating these symptoms. Every day I was rolling a massage ball on my foot, on my calf, hyper focusing on it.
Fixing behaviors again.
Fixing again. Yeah, like could not switch off from that. Then I decided, right, I need to go and see a therapist. So I went and had some EMDR, which I had 6 sessions of EMDR, which now I look back was great, but back then it did really help. But looking back at the time, I still couldn't understand. And then,
did physical therapy move the needle at all when you were seeing that physical therapist? Was it like, what was their idea and what did you do?
They tried to fix me physically without addressing the emotional underlying stresses, and I actually went and had a massage from this particular physio, and I think I was starting to catch on to things at that point, and they were kind of like, they dismissed that this was being caused by anxiety, and they just, they were putting it down to tension from the gym and working at a desk, and they were very dismissive of that. And then I kind of challenged that. I was like, well, I don't believe that I know what muscle tension feels like. I know what this is being created by.
So you were suspicious right from the jump. I mean, you already had this little bit of doubt in your mind about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought I thought that's another thing. That's a part of the process. I stopped getting the massages because I thought I don't actually need them at the minute. Again, it depends on your mindset. If your mindset around getting a sports massage is purely for relaxation and just to have some me time, that's fine. But if you're going, I think with the mindset I had at the time was to fix myself. If I go and get a sports massage, these symptoms will be gone. And I'll never, and that really wasn't the case.
Well, and the evidence is there, right? Because it's not working.
Yeah,
so if you do it times and it's not helping, we have to see that as evidence that that's probably not the right solution.
Yeah. So that was a part of the process. So that then got reduced. I had the 6 sessions of EMDR, And then I decided at that time that this wasn't working. So I thought the health anxiety was the main problem, but it wasn't. We understood what the underlying issues were. You know, nuts and bolts of it was my mum grew up with health anxiety. Her mum did, sorry. And then I'd seen that behavior growing up as well. And then there was lots of family stresses over the years. So there was lots of underlying issues as to why I didn't feel safe and stuff like that. And
You made all these connections later, right? Like
yeah,
later in the
these
process.
come on a bit later on in the process. So I had two sessions of CBT, and then I knew the penny dropped. That's when I realized
Cognitive
after
cognitive behavioral therapy for people that don't know. EMDR you did first,
yeah,
right? Which is working on specific traumatic memories, and then
yeah,
CBT more of a general process. And
yeah,
that's when the
yeah.
penny dropped. That was when you
That's
shifted.
yeah. My mindset shifted. I thought, CBT, it tends to be what the NHS, the National Health Service, offer in the UK.
I
Tends to
see.
be the go-to. Um, but in terms of how I had the two sessions and I thought this isn't the root cause health anxiety. It's deeper than that. It's
Mm.
deeper than that. And because at that point I was starting to pull away from everything that I enjoyed. I had a couple of weeks off work, which were probably the best decision I ever made, but the worst at the same time because
Take a break.
I had to have a break and actually get myself into a much more of a soothing state, which I obviously being I am undiagnosed ADHD, so I can be running on overdrive a lot. So to take a break for a couple of weeks was tough
It
to
gave you
sit
some
there.
perspective. It's like a really good example. I talk a lot about how, people don't need that as much rest as they feel like they do, but sometimes
Yeah,
a short-term break can be a helpful jump start
yeah,
to the
yeah,
process, right? And at that
yeah.
point, you were not in the gym, you were not exercising, you're not working out at all, right?
No, I pulled out. I started getting a bit of lower back tension following doing squats,
Mm.
and I I thought, what's going on? Strange. But because I was in that fear cycle, that fear loop, I stopped training for a good few months. So I told my brain that right, weightlift isn't safe anymore. So and then I was like, right, and then I gradually started to pull away from other things. So I've stopped weight training. I then started overthinking about work. I thought, what happens if I can't work again? And what happens if I can't exercise? Am I going to be stuck like this forever? Um, and then I started doing a bit. It's where I found the rewiring the mind and body stuff. I started doing a bit of research, and I came across your work. I found you on Instagram.
On Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I found it. What I found amazing was you know how these symptoms are very real, but how they can be created by your brain. If the more you fear something, the more the symptoms in your brain's going to create. And that brain, and I've learned this now that the more that we rewire our brain, the more we can create more neural pathways. So, you know, by me doing that and recognizing that I wasn't structurally damaged, that I was able to work out, but it was very much around how I changed my mindset around working out. So I didn't go back to weightlifting straight away. I started to walk. I started to go on walks, but that's when the way I reframed my brain and the way I spoke to myself, I'd go on a walk and I'd be like, oh, it was like people must have thought I was weird. I've been having a conversation with myself, going, I'm not damaged. I'm perfectly fine. I've got a pair of legs. They can walk. I can do a few handstands if I want. You know, it's normal if I'm going to get a few sensations. That's absolutely fine. And then gradually, the more I spoke to myself in that kind of manner, then I thought, right, I'm going to try and do a bit of jogging. Jogging became running, and then I thought I'm ready to go do weightlifting again. But again, it was very much how I approached the way around my mindset for exercising was not to fix myself, but was to sort of say, I enjoy exercise. It's part of me. I like how I feel after it. It's natural. I got a lot from it, and it went from there. you'll know this yourself. It's like your symptoms as well. It's a journey, it's a process. Your symptoms are always the last thing to go as well. I get them. They come and go, but they're not as strong, and I can make that link that
So,
maybe
so,
something needs
so
to change.
if I'm hearing you right, you're saying you had to do the return to exercise first,
Yeah,
then the symptoms went away. You weren't waiting
yeah,
for symptoms
yeah.
to ease so that you could then exercise. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, I worked through it. I thought I'm gonna train. I know that there's nothing wrong with me, but because I'd been stuck in the fear cycle for months, there was a little bit of rewiring that had to be done. I needed
Yeah,
to
for sure.
rewire the brain, and
And I remember messaging you about when you were starting to do this, when we started meeting, um, to sort of remind you to keep checking in with like, why am I exercising? Am I doing this for the right reasons? Is there pressure
yeah,
and urgency? Am I truly enjoying this? And I think, every time I did that, you kind of confirm like, yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
hear you, Charlie. Like I get it.
yeah, yeah,
Doing it. Yeah, I'm doing it for
yeah,
the right reasons.
yeah, yeah. And exactly that was exactly that, and that's when everything started to shift, and you know, I knew that I felt safe, and I did some of this somatic tracking work that you taught me, and I did some of the emotional repression work, which is great, because we don't want, I think a lot of people with the emotional suppression work, if they've had some issues with family members, you can actually reenact that, can't you? Like in your own space, in your own safe space, you can pretend that that person's in the room and that
Do
you
it privately. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, do it privately. And I think a lot of people don't realize the power of that work. I certainly didn't. I didn't realize you could do that before.
It's
I thought, well,
intimidating. It's
what?
intimidating. Even though you're just doing it by yourself, it's still
Yeah,
intimidating, isn't it?
it's very
At
intimidating
first.
because I thought, yeah, at first you kind of like you've got to sort of envisage that person's in the room and that you are talking to them.
Yeah.
And again, how long, how many times you have to do it? I just did it as and when, like maybe I'll set a bit of time aside today. And I think with this, even with the somatic tracking, I thought, right, want to practice what I preach here. I'm getting good at this stuff. I'm going to lie on a yoga mat, and I'm just going to feel the sensations in my body, but I'm going to sort of notice them, observe them with a bit of curiosity, and
Mhm.
not recognize that these are damaged. No, okay, they're there, but they'll go. You know,
So one thing I'm appreciating, Joe, as you share your story, it sounds like my Instagram sort of, you were already on the road, but it like filled some gaps from like a psychoeducation
yeah,
perspective that maybe needed to be filled so that things
yeah,
made more sense. And
yeah,
then the other thing that I'm also recognizing as you're telling your story is that you just like committed to the work. I mean, as an
yeah,
ACT clinician, you're oriented that way. Acceptance and
yeah,
commitment therapy is about
yeah, yeah,
accepting this is true and then committing.
yeah,
And I just, I saw you every step of the way. You're just like doing the work. And I think
yeah,
for a lot of people, they get the idea, they understand it, they've read the books, they've done the podcast, but getting on the playing field, as we say, is a big step. It's hard to do.
yeah.
And you were really brave, I think, to just dive in.
Thanks, appreciate that. Yeah, no, I think your stuff was a game changer, really. I think the way you explain things on your Instagram handle, your reels are really clear. And would you agree that people maybe get frustrated with the process because it's normal to have a hiccup along the way? It depends what's happened in that. But what's been really important, certainly from what you've advised me and stuff, is keep going back to that emotional link. What was happening during that week?
Think
We'll pick
psychologically, like when
things
symptoms
like
come on, think psychologically, not physically.
yeah.
Yeah.
But do you know what's really changed? Like just from working with you, and I think what's been really positive is it's kind of changed my relationship. My relationship with my partner's
Your
improved.
partner. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's really improved. My my work and life balance has improved because I've recognized that I do need to take more time for me, and you know I don't have to put so much pressure on myself because we have a plan. We're going to move to France, and I was putting a lot of pressure on myself that I had to have a successful business so I could earn an income in France. These pressures all add to the family stress, the stress with your partner, your house. I was making any time for myself. So I would say it's
Mhm.
really, really improved that aspect of my life as well.
Amazing.
Because I think, would you agree that people What do you think about people getting stuck in that fear cycle? Why do you think people get stuck for so many years?
Oh man, there are so many reasons.
Yeah,
And I do think that one of the reasons it's hard for people to lock into it, the process, is because there is no clear protocolized, right, way to do this. It's different for
yeah,
everybody. Like you have a different story from my client that I'm going to see later today, right?
yeah,
Not everybody benefits from the same strategies. And so
yeah,
um, a lot of this process is about tolerating uncertainty.
yeah,
And I think that's generally difficult for all of us. And so I think that's one reason people get stuck is because it's just, they want an answer, they want to fix it, and
yeah,
it's too difficult to not know.
yeah,
Mm, But that's what this whole process demands. And I think
yeah,
that's what
yeah,
your process really stood out to me.
yeah. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I agree, and I think maybe people struggle to accept that these symptoms are you are safe and they are being created by the brain, and
Because they
you
feel
know,
real, don't they? I mean, they are
yeah,
real, but
yeah,
like they're the same symptoms as though there was something injured in your
yeah,
body. So you can't feel the difference
yeah,
between symptoms that are from an injury and symptoms that are from your brain in the
yeah,
absence of an
yeah,
injury. The same
yeah.
symptoms.
Absolutely, and even when I had it I got try and shine a light so people can relate. I got ringing in the ears. So you got some muscle
Tinnitus.
tension.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Back pain.
tinnitus. Yeah, dizziness, nausea, sleep issues. You name it. I had everything, and it is difficult, and it's like my obviously when I started to make the mind and the body link, the symptoms started to go, and I'll just I'll validate it can get frustrating if a symptom can linger around, but I had the tingling in the left foot and the numbness that probably lasted for 6 weeks. So they do pass, but would you agree, Charlie? Some symptoms can take longer than others to you could have back
Sure.
tension for a day, a couple of
Yeah.
hours. You could have it for 2 weeks. You could have it for months. But would you agree that the more that you get frustrated, if you withdraw, maybe that the longer the symptom can linger?
It's one of the F's, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Fear, seeing frustration, focusing on, freaking out, like
yeah,
all the F's we're trying to avoid. Yeah, I think, it's so common that people go from one symptom to like, now I have a dozen symptoms.
yeah,
And the reality is, right, you don't have 12 problems. You have one thing
yeah,
that's causing all of those sensations in your body. And you're right, you can see people start to unlearn symptoms, and they almost sometimes get unlearned in the opposite direction from which you learn them. And a lot of people will find themselves back at the first origin story symptom or
yeah,
symptoms. And that's like the last thing to go.
yeah,
And oftentimes that's the crux, to use a rock climbing term. That's the crux of the process where it's like, all
yeah,
right, this is the final hurdle,
yeah, yeah,
and,
yeah,
and so that's very common. Sometimes they all just disappear at
yeah,
once.
yeah,
Sometimes they'll come and go again, ebb and flow. But
yeah, 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 yeah. But it's again, it's how you talk to yourself. I don't know if you agree, but like, do you think people get worried about maybe doing a bit of a deep dive? Right. So these symptoms started on such and such a day. But that one passed. And what happened at the time? Oh, I don't want to look back because I don't want to retrace the steps because I'm scared.
for
You know,
sure, for
it
sure.
doesn't bother me. Like I just said before, I can do that deep dive and go, yeah. So I had the tension, some funny sensations in my hand, and then I had them in the feet, and then it moved to the thigh. Then it was on one side of the back. But it's good to look back because you think, right, well, these did pass, but what kind of work did I do, and what caused them at the time? Well, I say my symptoms are getting weaker and weaker. I get a little bit in the back, but I'm like, oh, okay, it's there, but it's going. It'll
Well,
fade eventually.
you made some very quick connections. You were very open um, to having these conversations and
Yeah,
going back and trying to make some links between the origin of these symptoms and what
yeah,
was going on for you. And yeah, I think that's another really unique part of your process is you were not intimidated by doing that. And pretty quickly, right, we were able
Yeah.
to see and recognize the pattern and make all these connections between early life and your parents, and even when your symptoms started as an adult, what was going on for you at that time. And I just saw you like making these connections like so
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
It's really powerful.
Yeah. And I think as well, I think maybe growing up, which we kind of identified together, didn't we? Maybe I didn't feel safe. Maybe I wanted a bit more attention, and maybe that's the reason for me being a bit of a people pleaser. Which has obviously brought some of the symptoms out again. But there's not, like, what I've learned to do now. Sorry, is I'll ask for help if I want to help, and I'll make decisions if I want to make decisions. Which again, it's a process. There might be something where you feel like you should have said no, but you didn't. And again, it's like, don't beat yourself up about that. Just say, okay, maybe I could have handled that a bit better. Maybe I
Yeah.
will do things a bit differently next time. I didn't really take medication either. The only medication I took at the time was, I think it's Zoloft in the States, isn't it? Sertraline
Certainly.
in the UK, yeah. Which I was always a bit, again, call this fear. I was always a bit fearful of taking antidepressants over the years, and I know a lot of people are. I think people have took Zoloft and sertraline, and everybody's different, aren't they? In terms of, if they get symptoms, some people don't get any at all. I had some symptoms for probably about a month, but then they settle down. But I think the sertraline was a good tool for me. It was good because it allowed me to do the other work. But I think if you're going to take stuff like that, I think you have to view it as a tool. I say I've got a tool bag. That's my hammer. I've got a spanner in there as well, and I think that's the best way to look at it, because I think you can't rely on one tool, because
Yeah.
it's not. I think some people do as well.
Yeah. I'm hearing you talk about like how much you've changed over the course of time. I think the other reason this process is intimidating is because it does require a certain amount of change in one's
Yeah,
life. We get
yeah,
used to sort of who we are, and the idea that like people will say, do I need to become a different person? Like maybe they don't want to become a different person, but really, you're a good example.
yeah,
You're just trying to get out from underneath the early conditioning that made you people pleaser and all these other
yeah,
personality traits. Those weren't
yeah,
really your true nature. So what you're trying to do is become more of a true version of yourself, right?
yeah,
How
yeah,
you describe it, like now you
yeah,
feel like this is like truly who Joe is. This is who Joe
yeah,
is always meant to be without this other conditioning.
yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. That is probably the best way to kind of describe it as well. Which I do feel, which is a work in progress. I think,
of course.
for
It's a
example,
part of our lives.
absolutely, if your symptoms go and stuff like that, the process still continues. You're constantly evolving and adapting, aren't you?
It just means you're on the right track when your symptoms go
Yeah.
away. It's not done.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't just suddenly go, right, they're gone now. That's it. I don't have to do any more
Go
work.
back, go
Nothing's going
back
to,
to
yeah, yeah,
who I was. Yeah, that's not.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's some of the clients I've had consultations with recently. I've asked them about, I always like to ask, what's your goal? And I've had a few of them say, just to get rid of anxiety. Now, if I could wave a magic wand, and I could make that happen, I'd do it. But fortunately, we can't. And like you said, that I can only give you so much, so many tools, but the inner work, you have to do that.
Yeah.
In between,
Yeah.
and especially in between sessions, you have to work on it.
Make it
Just
happen.
having a session with, like, for example, for yourself or myself, and not doing any work in between, it's not going to transform things, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It,
So,
it,
so
it-
as someone that specializes in anxiety, health anxiety, did you relate to your own anxiety the way you related to the symptoms, right? The goal isn't to make it go away. The goal is to
yeah,
actually work with it, right? To lean
yeah,
into it,
yeah,
to go through it. Can you speak just
yeah,
a little bit about how you coach people on that and how you think about
yeah.
yourself?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what I started to do, with my symptoms, Mine started with a little bit of somatic meditation, um, which involved me. So the feedback I used to get from my massage therapist was, I don't breathe. I don't breathe enough. You're always constantly holding your
Holding your
breath.
breath.
Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So she said, you're really tense, but I didn't recognize that when I was non-anxious. So
I
the
see.
way I started to lean into my sensations, which was a game changer for me, was lying on a yoga mat before bed. Um, I used to do some guided meditation, which would involve, double inhale, slow exhale, and then kind of body scanning, which can be daunting for someone with health anxiety if they can't make the link between what's happening, its mind and body. But I think that work is a process. I think once you can make that link between the mind and body, you can then start to work on the body scanning. So I'd start at the head and I'd work down to the toes. I'd really need lean into these sensations and recognize it. You
Because
know,
because
the
because for people that don't know, the anxiety, the feeling of anxiety is manifesting as physical sensations in your body. So that's how
yeah,
you were
yeah,
working with it. Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely. Recognizing that yeah, stress, anxiety, as you say, it manifests in our body. It comes out in different sensations. We all hold it differently, don't we?
We do.
Um,
And it sounds like at that point you hadn't made all these connections around
yeah,
because anxiety is such an abstract, like shitty feeling
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
really that doesn't really tell you, hey, you're a people pleaser, or hey, you need to change this. It's just like you got to start with this
yeah,
generic feeling that you hate
yeah,
to get
yeah,
to the
yeah.
other stuff, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Make that link, like you said, understand that, and then we can work on the body scanning. And we can recognize that these sensations, these symptoms, they're not, they're not damaging you. You're not damaged. You're perfectly safe. And I think when people understand that and they can understand that they will go. Here's an example. I got a little tingly sensation in my right foot the other week, and I was like, oh, okay, it come on. But rather than um, catastrophizing, and going, oh my God, what's this? Right, Google, social media, doctors. I just kind of gently acknowledged it, which is what I do with my clients. Just go, it's there, we've had this before. It went, didn't it? Um, what's changed today? Have you been a bit stressed? And obviously, what happened the next day? It went. It was there. Just gently acknowledged it. I was like, oh, okay, it's there. It's here he is again. Just reminding me that I need to slow down a little bit, maybe. And then it passed the next day. But I think with body sensations, the more that you catastrophize something, the more that you zone in that this isn't safe, and the more difficulty you're going to have, the longer it's going to be there.
Yeah. So your ability to just like work with the sensations and from a place of calm and
Yeah,
curiosity sounds
yeah,
like was the good starting point that led to all these other ahas around
yeah.
what was driving that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Same with worked with a client who was similar to me actually with the withdrawing from going to the gym. So I kind of same approach again to get him squatting again. And I said, well, start off with like we did, start off with some air squats and gently build back up to squats again. And I said, well, and then his answer was, what if I get tension? Well, I said you will do if you've just had a good leg session or you've done some deadlifts. But I said the symptoms, because you've been stuck in this fight or flight for a while, they're still going to take a bit longer to go. But you can recognize that you are going to be a bit tighter the next day after the gym, and you know the work continues. They will go. They will go. It just takes time.
Yeah. So you really had a really strong belief, almost a faith
Yeah,
in this process, didn't you? From early
you
on,
have
which
you
makes it.
have to believe. Absolutely, you've got to. I think if you want to break free or transform, I think the biggest thing is you've got to believe that you are going to heal
I mean, we
things.
do have 25 years of science backing this up,
Yeah,
so it's not like it's
yeah,
new or weird or
yeah,
woo,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
This
Absolutely, absolutely. This stuff works, and I think We were talking about MRI scans, weren't we? And about how they, people pushing for MRI scans, and it's not always the best options unless you have got, if you've got
Humor.
tumor, muscle weakness, atrophy.
Yeah.
Um, you wake up in the morning, you've lost your feeling in one leg, one arm, or whatnot.
Yeah. You
No
need to have
massive red flag.
a red flag symptom
Yeah,
or
yeah,
yeah. So you and I love the gym. You
yeah,
and I love working out in the gym. That's something I wanted to make sure early on that like you were going back to the gym for the right reasons. But you and
yeah,
I
yeah,
love the gym. Most people assume in the physical therapy world that they need to be in the gym to feel better. They need to go to the
yeah,
gym because their body needs to be stronger because pain represents that they're not strong enough, they're not flexible enough, right? And I find this such a pitfall because most people don't like the gym. Most people don't want
no,
to go to the gym. They go do it because they feel like they have to. You don't need to go to the gym to get better, but I appreciate that that's something that you love that you're excited to get back to. So I just wonder if you could speak a little bit about your process with return to exercise because you made it look really easy. You sort of did it yourself. I don't know how much of a role I played in that
oh,
process.
you did, to be fair.
Yeah, you just went for it and again you trusted, I guess.
I think the game changer was reframing how I talk to myself, and everybody's different, but I thought reassurance was a bad thing. So, I was just checking in with you. I might have said, right, Charlie, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z today. Or I might just say, right, I went in and I'm doing a pull session tonight in the gym. So if we rewind the clock a bit, I might have said, right, Charlie, I've been in an unpull, but I sat in the car for a few minutes and I said, right, why am I going in and doing this session? What's the purpose of this session today? Do I enjoy it? Yeah, I do. I do. I enjoy it. I like the feeling. I like I like the social chat in the gym. You know, I like to be around, in that environment. Because my gym's a bit of an old gym. Blood, sweat, and tears. It's a great gym for that. I say I like having a bit of banter, and again, it's about how you reframe your mind. My mindset was very much different when things started off. I wouldn't do it. I was scared of talking to myself because I was scared there was an issue underneath everything that I had a neurological condition. But
I see.
you know, the work started there really, and
Self-talk.
I self talk, self compassion work.
Mhm.
And I thought, if it's a bit, I want to feel a bit uncomfortable. I want to step into that uncomfortable, feel it, really lean into it. That
Mhm.
the way we start healing is it's fine to be uncomfortable, and this is how we transform. I think that's why people get stuck. They don't want to lean into the uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Step out of that comfort zone.
Leaning into the fear, and then you kind of see
Yeah,
it dissipates, it recedes because you're leaning into it.
yeah.
Did
Well. Sorry, mate.
did you feel like it was the same with martial arts, with
I
Brazilian
was,
Jiu-Jitsu? Because that's even
yeah.
for a lot of people more of an intimidating thing to
But
engage.
just took the words out of my mouth. I was going to touch that again. When I started doing that, again, I had to reframe things because I was kind of like, why am I doing this? Am I doing this because I'm trying to prove to myself that there's nothing wrong with me again? Do I enjoy it? And to be fair, again, I had to do a bit of a deep dive because I've been threatening to do this for probably 5 years and I just actually never got round to doing it. But
Mhm.
because I've made some really good changes in my life, I thought I'm doing it because I want to try something a bit different. And these skills come in handy because we don't know what life's going to throw at us. We don't know what situation we're going to end up in one day. And I
So it
thought,
felt like a safety move. It felt like a life safety skill
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
wanted
a
to
little
get.
life safety skill. I thought there was an element of that, and I thought, let's try and meet a new community. Let's try something different.
Yeah.
Again, it's good for rewiring the neural pathways. We're teaching the brain that this is something new, and
When you're leaning
it's
into fear, I've never done
yeah,
it.
yeah,
I understand that when you're underneath somebody like suffocating, can't breathe, it's a great
yeah,
way to train
yeah,
your nervous system to tolerate discomfort where you're not in control.
Yeah, yeah. And again, that wasn't easy. The first session I did, I pulled up in the car, saw them, sort of went in through the door, panicked, got back in the car and went home. And on the way home, I don't think no, I did. Normally I'd beat myself up and get frustrated. I was like, oh God, what a shit house. I've actually not got it. But I was like, right, let's look at the positives. I got in the car, I turned up. All right, I didn't turn up fully, but I'm going to go next week. I'm going next week, and then it's kicked on from there. And I went, but there was a little bit of a pause after about 4 weeks. Again, some things started showing up. I think it might have been the back, because I think at the time I'd started swimming because I wasn't training at the time. I wasn't doing any weights because I was fearful of everything. And then obviously I'd been swimming, and I'd maybe, I think I was swimming 3 times a week. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't breaking any records. It was just thought I'll do something a bit different to try and retrain the brain. I need to get back into exercise again. And then I had like tight shoulders, tightness, middle of my back, and I was like,
if you're swimming, it's new. I've done it before, of course.
Yeah, this is it. But at the time, I was like, maybe I'm gonna have to stop swimming. Maybe I'm making it worse.
Yeah.
Maybe making things worse again. And
it's a common reaction.
Yeah, common fearful reaction. I'm like, now when I look back and I look at it, I go, well, hang on a minute. The only time you've been swimming is on holiday. You've not actually done any lengths. The muscles, you've not used these muscles for a while. And the brain's a bit like, oh, hang on a minute, this is new.
So you kind of logicked your way out of it. But
yeah,
I appreciate your story about going back to the martial arts gym, because there's this idea that if something feels too hard, it's because the first step isn't small enough. And so you just, like, from a gradual exposure perspective, you showed up, you went in the door, all the place, and that was probably all you needed for your nervous system that day. So it's kind of brilliant the way that
great way to look at it. That perfect. That there is exposure work. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was kind of sussing my surroundings out, getting a gauge. What are the people like? What's the venue like? What's the parking like?
How does it smell?
How does it smell? Subconsciously, that I was doing that, but didn't realize that at the time.
Yeah. It's really smart. And then so here you are. You're like still, I know, kind of getting back where you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, just to go back, like, you weren't waiting for the pain to go away. You were starting to dose that in, and the symptoms change as a byproduct of doing this brave action. So important.
Absolutely. I think as well, it's routine's really important. And this is a process, isn't it? Again, we can talk about anxiety, and it'd be great if we had a magic wand and we could wave it and things would just disappear tomorrow. And it's the same with life. Life's stressful, and you might have a stressful week. The week after might be amazing, but I think it's very easily to fall back into that fearful stage again. Especially when, would you say, somebody's in the early work with you, and things are great first few weeks, and then they kind of fall back into and then he's like, it's being mindful there at that point, isn't it? That might be a bit uncomfortable again here, but let's just keep doing what we're doing.
We have this default mode that we continue to want to fall back into because it's familiar, and as a result it feels safe, but it's a continual process to try to break away from that. And
probably the same with something like you'll probably get like I work from home, sit at a desk, and would you get it with people where they struggle to sit down for long periods because they're scared and worried?
Common.
So that becomes
I had a client that bought 33 chairs hoping that he could find a chair that would work for him before
You're joking me.
No, it's the same with shoes. It's the same with, like, I've had people that have gone through dozens and dozens of shoes to find the right shoe for them.
It's
not a shoe problem. It's not a chair problem, but Yeah, you drive yourself
I,
mad.
you do. I had the same thing with being on my own in the house. Back in the
Mm.
depths of things, I couldn't be on my own, and I I thought that was it. I thought I'm never going to be able to work from home again. I'll never be able to be on my own again. But again, it's making the link between the mind and when you recognize things as safe and you've done the work we talked about so far, again, gradually you'll be able to enjoy your company again. And I suppose it's the same with sitting down. When you recognize what's actually happening here, you can sit down on your chair. It's fine.
And then
Yeah,
the question, right, in all those cases is what does sitting down represent? What does it
yeah,
mean to stop and sit down in a chair
yeah,
for your nervous system? Looking for the deeper meaning there.
yeah.
Joe,
You know,
this is
we yeah,
go
sorry, mate, go on. No,
I
no,
was
go on.
I was going to say I have a client that I need to go,
Yeah,
but this has been incredible, and
yeah,
we
brilliant.
can have a part two and talk more about this. But I just
Sounds good.
want to give you the last word, you know, based on your work with your clients, based on our work together. What's one final little nugget that you could share with people who are looking to
Believe. I want
believe?
people to believe. Yeah, believe that you can get better. You can. I think it's number one. You've got to believe the process. That is exactly what it is. Believe, and things will feel uncomfortable. But if you can believe that you will get better, then
It's like
that's
trust the science first,
trust the science. Yeah,
and
there's
then trust yourself. Believe in
it.
yourself.
Yeah, there's loads of like you said. This is scientifically backed up. This work. It works. Absolutely.
But then trust that you're as a human being, we're not meant to be in pain for
No,
a long time. That's not what the purpose of
no,
pain is. That's not how it was designed.
no.
Whoever designed it, right? Pain is not meant
Yeah,
to stick around. So by definition, when it sticks around, it's gone haywire.
yeah.
Like trust that. Trust that your body knows how to heal. Trust that your nervous system can become flexible and you don't need to be stuck in that state. Yeah.
No,
So
no. Great
that's
way to put it.
powerful.
Brilliant. Absolutely.
Hey, thanks for taking the time
Thanks
to
very much. Brilliant. Good work. Thanks, Charlie.
where can people find you, Joe?
So well, I'll trim the videos down as well. I'll pop a link for my Instagram handle. But if you go on Instagram, you can find me as Joe2OTU. But I'll put some links to the video as well. That's me. That's me. And you, Charlie. We'll get you.
Hey,
We'll get your
Joe.
link on there. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Cheers. See you
Have
soon.
a good week.
Bye
Cheers.
bye.